lineouts, rucks,
engage! What an amazing try!
tries, and tackles, dissected by South Africa's top rugby minds.
That is world class!
This is To The Last Drop, your weekly in-depth rugby podcast with Liam Delcom and Brendan Nell.
This is To The Last Drop. I'm Liam Delcom.
And I'm Brendan Nell.
A new year, Brendan, and we seem to be facing similar issues that have crept up over the last few years. And here, of course, I'm referring to South Africa's performances in the Champions Cup. Again, a little bit underwhelming. And I suppose for the same reasons stated last year and the year before. I think also the manner in which the Sharks, the Stormers, and the Bulls sort of failed to assert themselves in that competition was a little bit worrying.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to put your finger on it because the results haven't been good this year. I think there's three wins out of 12 in the entire competition. Not at all what you want from South African teams, and there are factors. I think we're already seeing, and I know if anybody is from outside South Africa listening to this podcast, they'll probably think it's an excuse, but ever since COVID, we've had these rolling 12-month seasons where players haven't had proper off seasons. I think it's starting to catch up with us. You just have to look at the injury lists of every team. They're mile long. There's some of the biggest stars that are there. And then secondly, you know, the big problem for every South African team is that their second string team is a step, quite a big step down from their first choice. And at the moment, a bunch of the first choice players are injured. So, I mean, Jake White said it on Saturday night after the Bulls beat Stade Francais to go into the Challenge Cup. He said, you know, when we look at this, we can't carry on shouting into the void. He said, yeah, something has to change. We can't just have Springbok rugby be strong and we don't look at the clubs. And yeah, while his view differs very much from Russie's, and he wants a lot of the South African players to come back, and he wants South Africa to only pick locally based players. I don't think that's going to happen for a while. Obviously, the Springboks have won 2 World Cups. There's a lot of success in there as well. But you can see Jake's point as well. And it's not like one's right and one's wrong. It's just somehow we've got to get to a point where we maximize everything on both fronts. And that's the difficult thing. It's easy when you've got money. When, like the French clubs, you can bring in 2 Fijian wingers and Owen Farrell or somebody like a big name player. But we don't have that luxury. So we've got to find another way of doing this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I asked John Plumtree after their defeat to Toulouse in Durban that very question about the difficulties around squad depth. How do we get around that and get to a point where we deliver better performances in the Champions Cup? And while he made the point that South Africa will become better at it, obviously some of these European giants have been at it for since the mid-90s. South Africa will get better at over the next couple of years. But he also spoke about the need to have players from this country stay here. He didn't necessarily say that you should legislate that, you know, if you want to play for the Springboks, you have to play domestically. He didn't say that, but he did make the point it would be nice if players stayed, and the pool of players that they have to choose from or can choose from is a lot bigger. But I suppose this debate will go on for a while still. And of course, the trainers to move on, the caravan moves on.
Yeah, you can understand the coaches, sort of views on this. I think all three the South African coaches probably have shot themselves in the foot by making a selection mistake or two here and there. But you know, we're still coming to terms with it, and I think in a way that is happening. I mean, guys like Jan-Hendrik Wessels, some of the younger Sharks players, Corné Roll, those guys are getting great experience, and in a year or two, they're going to be really good players. But you've got to go through that sort of, as Jake would always say, school fees. You've got to pay your school fees to do that. But at the same time, you've got the European guys all there sitting there wondering why they've got South Africa in the competition. And after performances that we put up this year, you can understand it. I don't quite agree with them at times. I think at times it's a bit of a colonialist attitude, if I can put it that way. But But I just think we can do a lot better on our side to make sure that we don't give them that sort of
Yeah.
fodder to do come at us
Mm.
with.
Yeah, while the Stormers, the Bulls, and the Sharks dropped points at home, lost matches in the Champions Cup at home, the travel factor is remains a very real one. And I think some of the European teams have also found that out, the way they mix and match their squads. Toulouse were able to pull off that win in Durban, but they basically brought just about a full strength team. And yet, Ugo Mola, their coach, made the point after that game that it was a very, very difficult week, not just a week, but also the build up to that game, because you had the travel. They played La Rochelle the week before. You play a team you haven't played in this competition at home. Foreign conditions. Obviously, Durban does challenge teams in very different ways. So, even in victory, he admitted that it was a very, very difficult exercise. And if you look at, if we talk about South African teams in that competition, we've had now since South Africa started playing in it, 19 away matches with 15 defeats. So not a great return over the last, 3 or so years.
But yeah, I can understand because the travel factor, you can't underestimate how big that travel factor is. Because if you look now, even now the Bulls and the Sharks going and the Lions are in the Challenge Cup. The Bulls in the Challenge Cup, for instance, and we had this conversation with Jake on Saturday. They now have to go play Bayonne. If they beat Bayonne, they either have to fly back or they have to play the winner between the Lions and Edinburgh. So if it's the Lions, they have to fly back to Joburg, and then the next week they play Glasgow and Munster in the URC away from them. So then, I mean, that travel factor to fly to France, fly back to Joburg, or even if it's not Joburg, if Edinburgh win, then they fly France, they go 2 weeks in Scotland, and then they go to Ireland. A 4-week tour is in those conditions is not the greatest. So it is a tough road, and you can understand why. Yeah, and Jake made the point as well that you can't send two different teams. We don't have the budgets to do that, to send two different teams, one team for 2 weeks and another team for 2 weeks, which the European sides do. So I feel for the South African sides. I don't feel so much for somebody like Toulouse, who literally comes out to South Africa once in a decade, and then and then the star player complains that he has to leave France to play a game in the Southern Hemisphere for the first time in his entire career.
Did he complain?
Well, I saw a clip where he said it makes no sense coming down to Durban, and
I'll trust you to find that clip.
well, I saw it reported. I wasn't on the press conference, but if that is the case, and I stand to be corrected. If that is the case, then you sort of wonder to yourself, well, shame. Sorry, we have to do this several times a season. It's not ideal, but we've got to find a way of getting past it. Anyway, we're not going to complain about players or teams and all this. We've got to find a way of getting better. Otherwise we can play the blame game forever.
Yeah. I think it's probably time to move on. The URC's back this weekend, and there's obviously one big derby that we have to look forward to. It's the XK1, which last year was a little strange because you had the fairly comfortable win for the Bulls at Ellis Park, but then you also had a bit of a cliffhanger at Loftus, where many would have put money on Jordan Hendrickse converting that last-minute penalty, but I think he kicked it to the right. Do we see a different sort of pattern developing this year, or do you think it'll be similar to last year?
I think it's going to be a helter-skelter rugby. I think both teams want to run the ball. Both teams play very much attacking rugby. I think both teams are coming off big wins, so they're going to be full of confidence. I think that win over the Dragons, although I don't quite rate the Dragons, was exactly what the Lions needed in that game. The game in Loftus last year, I mean, the Lions should have won that game. And I mean, we've seen Jordan Hendrickse put over last-minute kicks in the Currie Cup and to win the Currie Cup, and you will put money on him to win that one. But the return game was very strange as well because the Bulls did comfortably win that one. So it's an intriguing game. I think it's going to be certainly one of the games of the weekend because I think both sides desperately need the 5 points on offer. And these next couple of weeks where we have all these derby games is going to really make or break some campaigns. So you need to get off to a good start because after that, you've got some of the bigger clubs coming to South Africa, and in the Bulls' case, they're traveling overseas, and some of the Stormers also have to go overseas again. So you need these points from the local derbies because if you lose all these local derbies, your season could be over before you get to the last part of the season.
Yeah, Yeah. If you look at the Lions, and we had opportunity to speak to Morne van der Berg in this week in the build-up, and it's quite clear that there's an energy and there's a desire to do well this weekend. He seemed quite enthused by the challenge, not just that it's the Lions and the Bulls, but if you look at individual matchups and the number of Springboks in that Bulls team, they certainly got the impression that they are really up for this. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard from Bulls players. You have, and maybe you can share what your sentiments are, or what you've heard.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think just generally, I think we know South African players love playing against each other. We had David Creel up yesterday, and he was saying that he stays with his brother Richard, and the chirps have started in the house
Well,
the whole time.
You can see
He
that.
says, which one guy reported cheekily said maybe we should have the Creel Cup every year, and that they can play for, which sounded very interesting. He laughed at that. He didn't think it was that good an idea. Maybe because you'd want to win the thing the whole time, so sometimes you won't win it. But yeah, I mean, we spoke to a bunch of the Bulls players, and there's certainly an extra spring in their step for this game. There's something about the South African teams, not just the Lions. They know how dangerous the Lions are when the Lions get on the front foot. So, and they know how close they came to losing that game last year. So, yeah, while the Bulls should be favoured because they've got obviously a team with more Springboks, etc., I think this is going to be a 50-50. It's on the Lions' home ground. The Lions are playing with confidence. Well, we can quickly listen. We'll check in a quick clip here. We spoke to Marcell Coetzee, and just this was his thoughts on the derby, and it's going to be a huge one this weekend.
And afterwards, we'll hear from one of the Lions.
No, it's massive. No, look, it's never easy traveling to over the Yexke to Ellis Park. We know the Lions. They've got if you've been following them this recent seasons, they've really grown as a squad. Full 80-minute team. Got attacking variations all over the park. Good counter-attackers and set-piece game, So, no, look, I think first of all, it's respect that comes to mind. But then also excitement. After the good win on the weekend, we just want to continue with that form and continuity that's been built. And looking at the URC, we're fairly looking good. And we've got 2 games in hand as well, and we want to make the most of it, So, no, this weekend will definitely be an important one on our list. Yeah, I think I mentioned the Lions are full 80 team. And I think the last 20 minutes in our game last weekend, we kind of just let our foot off the pedal, and you can't afford that with the Lions. They look like a fit team, and they throw the ball around wide to wide, and we have to match that. I think the impact of the bench is going to be immense going to this weekend, and yeah, look, it's like I said, they've got threats all over the park, and it's all about matching those areas. But to make it a full 80 game, we have to go full 80 if we want to be successful against these guys. Yeah, 100%. I think. We are South Africans and the unions. We're very proud of our unions and our heritages. And I think it's always a bit spicy and a bit more extra punch to a derby game. And not just this game, but I think all around the board, there's always that little bit of extra that goes into, like the Lion said, you want to be top of your conference. And that I think that just adds to the spice and the fuel to this game.
And then got around to having a chat to Asenathi and Ntlabakanye about the derby as well. And the big man had quite a bit to say. Have a listen.
Asenathi and Ntlabakanye, a Lion strongman and cult hero at Ellis Park. How are you looking forward to this challenge?
Looking forward to it. It's going to be a massive game. It's a derby. Ones we look forward to playing in. Hopefully the people of Joburg can come out in numbers and support the Lions this weekend.
What do you look forward to most in a derby match?
Obviously, as being a front row, you look forward to testing yourself against the best. I think they probably, in the competition, probably have their best scrum. So it's something I want to test myself in, as a pack in general as well. So you want to test yourself against the best, so looking forward to that.
As a prop, do you take scrubbing deeply personally, or do you think there is always collective responsibility that needs to be done?
It's a mixture of both, and I think I take things personal, but at the same time being in cohesion together as a pack. I can't take it personal in the next scrum, because always I have this thing of saying, you dominate me this scrum, but the next scrum is always another chance for me to dominate. So it's a kind of a thing. So you take it hard on yourself, but at the same time you look forward to the next one.
as much as you say it's not about yourself, there's also the Bulls are Springbok laden. It's obviously an opportunity to sort of stake a claim and advance your own game.
Yeah, look, that's something we can't shy away from. But like I said, this weekend is purely on us. I think if we focus on our processes and what we've been doing throughout the week, obviously we're going against a front row that's for the Springboks, which is it's something I said. One individual wants to test himself against. So it's a good challenge. But like I said, as a pack collectively, I think if we stick together, we'll be good.
What gives you the biggest thrill? Is it a pushover try? Is it bumping somebody off the ball? Is it a steal? What gives you the biggest? What gets your juices flowing?
I think for me, I've said it many times on platforms. I feel rugby is it's a beautiful game. It's for me what gets me going is big tackles. Tackling someone. That gets me into the game, and obviously pushover scrums. Those feel very sweet as a pack in general.
What drew you to the game initially? What was the attraction?
To be honest with you, I was kind of forced into playing the game. So yeah, to be honest, I'll forever thank my teacher for that, Manyamare. Sadly passed away in the previous year, so he's the one that kind of took my hand and really pushed me forward into playing rugby.
And at what age do you realize? Did the realization come? I can actually make a thing of this. This is something I could do and actually make a back or two.
It was around grade 8. I think it was around grade 8. That's when I got my scholarship to Saints, and then I realized I'm pretty decent at this, so I might take it forward as a career.
And if you didn't do that, if rugby wasn't the thing for you, what were you likely to sort of engage yourself in?
It's probably funny. People I probably think I would have been in Hollywood. I think I'm a good actor. The drama in school, okay. I was pretty good at it. So now I went to school in Cistedian, so they're big on art and culture. So I think I would have been probably somewhere in Hollywood.
Okay. So actors have to be versatile. What would be the genre that you think you would be specialized in? Like action movies, romantic comedies? Where do you think you?
I think dramatic comedy, bit of action movie, because I see myself as someone that can be a hero. So I see myself as someone like that. So
I will have to ask you now. I mean, what's your favorite movie, and what will we more likely find you watching on a weekend when you have time off?
It's not really. It's not really movies. I just watch series. There's a series called Prison Break. Okay. So that's for me. It's very fascinating how he goes about his things, all the planning behind. It's really fascinating. And those, I'm pretty sure, those who haven't watched it, go give it a go. It's fascinating. It's my favorite series. Yeah. So yeah, I see myself as that type of character.
Yeah. And favorite actors?
Denzel for me. I think is versatile in his way of. Because he can do different movies. He can do comedy, he can do action, like I said. So for me, he's probably one of my favorites.
Have you ever used a line from a movie or from a TV series on the field where you thought this is the appropriate moment to remind this person of this?
Nah, to be honest, when I'm on the field, I'm a different person. I like to have fun. I like to have smiling faces, but at the same time be serious. So don't really think much about certain lines, but it's almost saying to myself, okay, it's showtime. It's time to go.
Yeah, great stuff. Just lastly, your family, was there rugby history in your family, or were you the first to?
I'm the first actually generation to go to a private school to play professionally. So the first generation. So it's something I pride myself in. Yeah. My family is really proud of me, and I'm trying to do them proud as well. So. Yeah.
It's weird how sometimes you come from a legacy like that and you feel the pressure, but now for you it's the other way around. There's still pressure.
There's still a lot of pressure to be able to provide, and it's a nice pressure. It's nice pressure. I wouldn't say it's pressure that one wants to shy away from. It's a pressure that I cherish. I really enjoy it to be able to provide for my family. Yeah, and hopefully the new generation of my family as well.
Great stuff. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
There, of course, are a couple of other games as well, Brendan, in the URC. Glasgow Warriors, who had a bit of an upset last week when they, I shouldn't call it an upset. You looked at that game. where they matched up with the Harlequins away to Harlequins, and they obviously came up short. This week they've got Connacht at home, and they are clear favourites. You agree with that?
Yeah, I was quite impressed with Connacht the way they played in the Challenge Cup. I mean, they were unbeaten through their Challenge Cup games, and they don't have so many Irish players away. Yeah, there's a lot of these sides are going to have to do for the next couple of weeks without the Six Nations players, and it's going to test their depth. It's going to be an interesting game. I think Glasgow should be, yeah, they should still be favourites for this game, being defending champions. But yeah, they've got a lot of Scottish players that won't be there. There's a couple that are injured, yeah, as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting test of depth. I still give it to Glasgow though, but I think it's going to be quite a close game.
Yeah. And this is where I think you could see a little bit of an upset if you maybe just check out the odds. But Ospreys against Benetton, and Ospreys are clear favourites. I wouldn't necessarily make them clear favourites.
Yeah, Benetton actually came. I mean, they did pretty well to qualify for the round of 16 for the Champions Cup. So there's definitely something going on at Benetton. But you know, the Italian sides at times blow hot and cold, and you don't know how many of the Italian players are going to be available for this game as well. And they have a host. Most of their squad is Italian international. So yeah, it's a tough one to call these weeks where the internationals are going to be out. The Welsh teams aren't looking good. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one to call.
You could say the same for the Wales team, though. I mean, we don't know how many of the Ospreys players are.
Yeah, I think I'd probably give it to the home side just because of the amount of Italian internationals in Benetton that probably are going to be out for this game.
Scarlets, Edinburgh slight favourites.
Yeah, although I think I picked up that there's quite a bit of pressure on Sean Everett at the moment. Obviously, they're not doing as well, as they've liked in the competition. They stayed alive in the Challenge Cup, but didn't have the greatest results all around. So yeah, I'd still back Edinburgh to do this again, with the caveat of how many internationals are out. But they definitely have a lot of depth, and Scottish rugby, the systems are pretty good. I think Welsh rugby at the moment is really in the doldrums. So I'd also go for Edinburgh win there.
Leinster, of course, clear favourites against the Stormers. It's hard to disagree with that. We had that sight of so many Stormers sitting in the stands last week, so they kept their powder dry. Would it have helped?
I think it would have helped last week, the way they lost there, but against Racing. But to me, I like to see if South African teams go up. I think it's only really been the Bulls who've gone to Dublin with a full strength side and tried to win. Okay, they didn't win. Many sides don't win in Dublin, and the Stormers face a hell of a task in winning. But the fact that there's a Six Nations now, and there's players obviously with their mind on that, then the second string is going to have to come through for them. I think if the Stormers play a full strength team, they've got a chance. But it's very tough to win there. Jacques Nienaber's defense, we saw against Bath. I mean, Bath was in that game for what, half an hour, 40 minutes, and then when they got the red card in the front row, they just got blown away. And the Leinster scrum is looking increasingly strong. But again, a lot of those players will be out this week.
Cardiff rugby against the Sharks, and it looks like Cardiff are very clear underdogs in this game. I think a lot of it probably has to do with the number of players they've lost to the national team.
Yeah, I think should be an opportunity for the Sharks to pick up some valuable log points here. I mean, even if Cardiff had their strongest team, I feel a team like the Sharks should be able to beat them anyway. But this is a big opportunity to pick up 5 points, and the Sharks will kick themselves if they don't take this.
Dragons, Munster clear favourites. I don't think there's anything much to discuss here.
No, not at all. I think it's just the even though it's at the Dragons' home, Rodney Parade, it's just, yeah, I don't know, 30, 40 points. Maybe it's going to be a bit closer than that because there won't be internationals in the teams. But yeah, I think that's the very clear favourites.
And the same probably can be said of Ulster against Zebra. Ulster overwhelming favourites.
Yeah, and Ulster impressed me with the way they snuck into the Champions Cup round of 16 as well. So they've definitely got some momentum back. And Zebra, well, you know, they're going to be disbanded as a club. They're selling their place in URC. So I don't know how much motivation there still is there. Yeah, easy win, I think, there for Ulster.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We'll have to see how that influences the points table, because we're not in the final stretch yet, but I think teams are going to start jockeying for position now, and we'll get a clearer picture in the next couple of weeks. I think by the end of February, we may have a much clearer picture of how things will pan out on that log.
I just want to say that, I mean, this should be the time that South African sides, rack up some victories, because a lot of players will be involved in the Six Nations. This is the time to pick up some points. And teams that do that will find themselves in a very strong position for the last leg of the competition. But you have to win your derbies, and that's going to be a tough one. There's some really big derbies. I mean, the Bulls play Lions, then they play Stormers in Cape Town, then they play the Sharks and the Stormers again at home. Those 4 games you have to win, and they're going to be tough to win.
Great stuff. Brendan, thanks very much. We'll catch up next week.
Yeah, we will. And if there's any topic you guys want to drop us a line, let us know. It'd be interesting to hear. The rugby season's going full steam. I think we just caught our breath over Christmas. I hope you had a great Christmas, Liam. And I hope Santa left something good in your stocking.
Have a good one. Ciao.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. For the latest insights and rugby analysis each week, plus new episode alerts, please follow or subscribe to the series. Or find all episodes at jacarandafm.com or the Jackpot app.